Tomo News presents Archaeological Sites, Ruins, and Relics. Cambodia's jungle is hiding lost ancient cities. Ancient cities with complex urban landscapes have been found beneath the jungle in Cambodia by researchers using laser scanners. Archaeologists have discovered a vast network of previously undocumented medieval cities near Cambodia's Angkor Wat Temple. Using LiDAR scanning technology, the researchers found multiple cities beneath the jungle that were linked by roads and canals. The cities range from 900 to 1,400 years old and would have been part of the largest empire on Earth in the 12th century. LiDAR is a detection system similar to radar, which uses lasers instead of radio waves. It is used with GPS to produce 3D models and maps. A helicopter mounted with LiDAR scanned a 734 square mile area near Angkor Wat in 2015. The data revealed the true scale of the lost city of Mahendrappa, which was previously believed to be much smaller. In fact, Mahendrappa was about the same size as Cambodia's present capital of Phnom Penh. The scans show the ancient cities had sophisticated water management systems, built hundreds of years before it was believed the technology existed. Geometric shapes thought to be gardens were also discovered. Historians say the groundbreaking discovery will help us understand more about Angkorian civilization and the decline of the Khmer Empire.
Pirates' possible lost treasure found in waters off Madagascar. Explorers may be one step closer to finding the location of infamous pirate Captain William Kidd's lost ship, the Adventure Galley. Divers lifted what they say could be pirate Captain William Kidd's lost treasure from the waters off Madagascar on Thursday. The leader of the diving team said his metal detector picked up signals, but it was too muddy for him to see anything. He later found a 50-kilogram silver bar that he says could have been linked to Captain Kidd. In 1698, Captain Kidd looted a ship that was carrying satins, muslins, gold, and silver. However, the ship's English captain captured Kidd and brought him back to London, where he was found guilty of piracy and for murdering one of his crewmen in 1697 and sentenced to death. The divers believe what they've found is genuine, and the markings on the silver bar are consistent with the time period Kidd was alive. However, this has yet to be proven.
Researchers shed new light on how Egyptians moved stones to build the pyramids. A new interpretation of a painting inside an Egyptian tomb has shed new light on how ancient Egyptians moved heavy stones to build the pyramids. The stones used to create the Egyptian pyramids weighed on average about 2.5 tons each. Research shows workers would move the stones on sleds. However, the friction of wood against dry sand in the desert caused significant drag and would create a sand berm in front of the sled as it moved forward. Workers would then need to clear the build-up of sand before the sled could be moved again. Researchers' new interpretation of an ancient Egyptian painting shows workers may have poured water onto the sand in front of the sleds. This would cause micro droplets of water to bind to the grains of sand, creating a form across the grains and making the sand stiffer, significantly reducing friction and drag as the sled was moved forward. Scientists say this discovery could even have implications for how modern society can effectively transport everything, including sand, cement, and flour.
Florida treasure hunters find $4.5 million worth of gold coins. On July 30th and 31st, a fleet of treasure hunting boats discovered $4.5 million worth of sunken treasure. Brent Brisbane, owner of the fleet, said his crew recovered 350 gold coins, along with 9 royals made especially for King Philip V of Spain. Spanish colonial coins were the main currency in North and South America between the 17th and 19th century. To facilitate easier transport from the New World to Spain, gold and silver were cut into roughly equal chunks and stamped with a pattern. Sometime in the 18th century, special coins called royals were made specifically for King Philip V of Spain, who reigned from 1700 until his death in the year 1746. The royals were different from regular gold coins. Royals were made by pouring molten gold into molds, which resulted in better circular symmetry. On July 24, 1715, 11 galleons carrying the royals along with troves of other treasures departed for Spain from Cuba. However, on July 31, 1715, the galleons were battered by a hurricane and sank in the area now known as Florida's Treasure Coast. The U.S. District Court of Florida will assess the gold recovered by the fleet from the Treasure Coast. 20% will be kept by the state, and the remaining 80% will be divided amongst the crew.
Kowloon Walled City, once the most densely populated place on Earth. April 2014 marked the 20th anniversary of the demolition of the Kowloon Walled City. A largely ungoverned slum, once considered the densest human settlement on Earth. Also known as the City of Darkness, it housed around 50,000 inhabitants in 300 buildings, crammed together into a tiny space that followed no rules or regulations. This video recreates the historical process that led to the creation and eventual disappearance of this unique city. The history of the Kowloon Walled City can be traced back to China's Song dynasty. In 960 AD, the original 6-acre plot of land began to be used as an outpost to regulate the salt trade. Little changed until 1810, when China established a small coastal fort and years later surrounded it with a defensive wall. The fortifications, however, failed to prevent the British from occupying the settlement in 1899, more than 50 years after they colonized Hong Kong. When Hong Kong came under Japanese occupation during the Second World War, the wall was raised, and the stones were used to expand nearby Kai Tak Airport. The settlement returned to Chinese rule in 1945. By 1947, more than 2,000 refugees wishing to live under Chinese rule had flooded the city. As Britain ended up adopting a hands-off approach, it became a haven for those who wished to live outside the law. By 1950, the city came under control of the Chinese mafia, known as the Triads, and illegal activities started to flourish. In the 1960s, a building boom occurred, and the walled city quickly turned into the infamous, sprawling, crowded, and anarchic city that it is remembered for today. Buildings constructed with no regard for safety standards gave shelter to a fast-growing population, but as the city grew taller, daylight was gradually blocked out, earning it the nickname City of Darkness. The dramatic increase of inhabitants, which grew fivefold in 40 years, put more pressure on the inadequate infrastructure and caused the squalid living conditions to deteriorate further. The city was so densely populated that Hong Kong and New York today would feel empty in comparison. For the 50,000 people living in the city in the 1990s, only 8 standpipes provided potable water. Water also came from wells, but people complained it was murky, foul-smelling, and contained soot-like particles. Living conditions were squalid, but the rent was cheap. At just 35 Hong Kong dollars, about $4 today, a month, which made up for the cramped and dirty spaces, patchy or non-existent electricity, and no garbage collection. Garbage was usually dumped on the building's rooftop. The city was especially attractive for dentists and manufacturers who could practice without license, the Triads who could run brothels, gambling houses and drug dens, and visitors who could find dog meat to eat, which was illegal in Hong Kong. After almost 50 years of effective anarchy, the city became an embarrassment for the British, who started to tear it down in 1993. The demolition was completed by April 1994. Residents received compensation and the site was transformed into a Qing dynasty-style garden. Despite the squalid living conditions, many former residents fondly remember the walled city. They considered it their home, their community, and although it was undoubtedly poor, many of them thought of it as generally happy.
Archaeologists may have discovered ancient Egyptian Queen Nefertiti's tomb. A British archaeologist might be on the verge of making one of the biggest discoveries in the field's history. University of Arizona archaeologist Nicholas Reeves believes new evidence may have located the remains of Egyptian Queen Nefertiti in a chamber in the tomb of King Tutankhamun. Reeves's theory is based on an analysis of detailed scans of the tomb that revealed 2 previously concealed doors. Reeves believes that one of the doors likely leads to a storeroom. The other door could lead to a room containing the remains of Queen Nefertiti. More tests are needed to confirm Reeves's theory.
Boy's discovery of lost Maya City may be wishful thinking. A 15-year-old Canadian boy's revelation that he discovered a lost Maya city has been debunked by experts. The boy's findings will be published in a scientific journal, and he is due to present them at a science fair in Brazil next year. But not so fast. Some archaeologists aren't so sure he's right. 15-year-old William Gattery had a theory that Maya people built their cities in line with the stars. Studying maps, he found that several Maya cities lined up with major constellations. Using satellite images, the boy thinks he discovered a missing city on the Yucatan Peninsula, where a constellation suggests it would be. But the site covers up to 120 square kilometers, and experts say it's highly unlikely a city that big could go unnoticed. Archaeologists also say satellite images do not provide information about the depth or height of structures. So in all likelihood, the images show fields that have been left fallow, probably for 10 or 15 years. Anthropologists and historians said the ancient Maya area was densely populated, so archaeological sites were everywhere. Therefore, any correlation with the stars was coincidental. But until there is a ground expedition to the area pinpointed by Gattery, no one will really know for sure if his discovery was real or not.
Scientists find Sunken City is actually a geological formation. A new study has shown that what was thought to be the ancient underwater remains of a lost city are actually just geological formations. Divers discovered what looked like an ancient toilet, what appeared to be sunken cobblestones and symmetrical stone cylinders, but no signs of life ever having existed among the ruins. New research from the University of East Anglia and the University of Athens show that what was thought to be a sunken city, 20 feet underwater near the Greek isle of Zakynthos, are actually formations built by bacteria. Researchers say the formations contain a mineral called dolomite, a calcium byproduct produced by microbes that feed off methane. Their study, published on June 2nd in Marine and Petroleum Geology, states the structures were created in the Pliocene era, up to 5 million years ago. As gas seeped through subsurface faults, bacteria gathered around the source and their calcium excrement reacted with the methane to produce a cement-like substance. The tubular structures were likely formed as microbes piled around focused jets of methane, and the slabs that built what looked like the city's streets may have been the result of large spews of gas. While no gas leaks in the area today, the phenomenon isn't uncommon and usually occurs at deeper depths. And although it's disappointing the formations aren't actually the remnants of some long-lost city, they at least provide avid divers with some sweet underwater scenery. Pure chance unearths Roman villa from under English farmhouse. A British rug designer just wanted to lay electric cables to his barn so that his children could play ping pong inside. But in doing so, he unearthed what may be one of the biggest Roman villas in the United Kingdom. Workmen digging at a farmhouse in southwest England last year discovered a hard layer 18 inches below the surface that turned out to be pieces of a mosaic. Property owner Luke Irwin said he sent a photo of the mosaic to the local council. He told the New York Times that within 24 hours, a team of archaeologists were on his property. Archaeologists then began an 8-day dig at the farmhouse and in the field next to the house. Only a few test pits have been dug, but archaeologists say the existing walls seem to be more than a meter tall. The farmhouse appears to be sitting on a slab of marble in the middle of what was the Roman villa, which measured around 50 meters long by 50 meters wide and was probably around 3 stories high. A whole range of artifacts have been found on site during the excavation, including a child's tomb, oyster shells, brooches, animal bones, and coins, indicating the owners of the villa were wealthy. Artifacts from the dig have been taken to the Salisbury Museum while the dig has been covered up until archaeologists obtain more funding to do a proper investigation.
1,000-year-old monk found inside Buddha statue. In the first discovery of its kind, researchers in Amsterdam have found a mummified Chinese monk inside an ancient statue of Buddha. The nearly 1,000-year-old Chinese Buddha statue was on display in the Drents Museum in Amsterdam. In September, the statue was moved to the Meander Medical Center for a CT scan and endoscopic testing. The CT scan revealed the remains of a mummified monk sitting in the same position as the external statue. The monk has since been identified as Master Liu Chuan, who was part of the Chinese meditation school in the 11th century. Researchers used an endoscope to examine the mummy's thoracic and abdominal cavities. They also found scraps of paper containing Chinese characters where Master Liu Shan's organs had been. The artifact, which is currently visiting Hungary, is the first Chinese mummy available for testing in the West, and it will be on display in Budapest until May.
Rare 19th century gold coins worth at least $10 million that were discovered by a California couple last year are about to go on sale. A Northern California couple was walking their dog on their property in the gold country last year when they noticed something sticking out of the ground. They stopped to investigate and found it was the top of a decaying canister. Using a stick, the couple dug out 8 cans from the spot. Each contained several dozen 19th century gold coins. A total of 1,427 coins were found inside the cans. The coins, minted from 1847 to 1894, were organized inside the cans in chronological order. The coins were in $5, $10, and $20 denominations, altogether worth $27,000 in the 1800s. However, they are so rare today that just one coin is valued at $1 million. And altogether, the coins are valued at least $10 million. The discovery of the coins is believed to be the biggest hoard of gold coins ever unearthed in the United States.